Hey, yeah, I wanted to talk about this 4% withdrawal rate. It's been in the news lately because the creator of it has actually updated his research, which is long overdue, by the way. So let's jump into this 4% rule, and then let's discuss a more practical way to look at handling your withdrawals from your savings to fund retirement. So let's first discuss the original rule. So Bill Bennigan, he was a MIT professor, very smart person, um, created the basic ease of just this rule of thumb that it became, which is you can withdraw 4% of your retirement portfolio each year. Now, that's what it has essentially come down to. But what the original study was, what the original 4% rule was actually a little more complex to that. First of all, the portfolio was 50-50, half stocks, half bonds. Back when bonds were paying double-digit interest, by the way, AAA bonds still paying double digits when he was, in the research period that he did this back in 1994. Because remember, in the 70s, interest rates were extremely high, all the way into the early 80s. So a lot of his data had some very generous bond rates. So 50% of your money in bonds is a little different than looking at 50% of your bonds today. The annual adjustment was the other thing that seems to have been watered down and people don't know about. So annually, you take that dollar amount. So you retire, you calculate 4% of your portfolio, and then each year thereafter, you don't recalculate the 4%. You simply add the inflation to the 4%, to the actual dollars that you were withdrawing. So if 4% of your portfolio was $40,000 and inflation was 3%, you would grow your $40,000 withdrawal by 3%. Okay. And then you would do that year over year over year. And statistically, through the data he was using, that should have no problem lasting for 30 years. That's includes past history. And when I say past, that past was starting in 1994, so it was quite a long time ago. So before our entire investing world digitized and has created a lot more fluctuations in our market. So he actually went through and updated. I don't think he's actually still advising directly. He's in his retirement years, but still loves playing around with the research and data. And so now he's suggesting 4.7 as a starting point instead of 4%. And this has been hotly contested. There's plenty of talking heads out there that have made arguments for 8%. I made a video on one of them. And the reality is 8% is not sustainable unless you're looking at the microcosm of, say, the last 15 years that have gone straight up. So why it's changed? Well, first of all, he's made his portfolio suggestions a little more sophisticated, meaning he has a lot more asset classes. He has diversified significantly. And the more you diversify with non-correlated or less correlated assets, the better your overall performance is. Diversifying with things that are correlated that all do the same thing is not really diversifying. So you're looking for asset classes that are going to perform differently. And in his case, he just kind of started adding small cap, micro cap, international, and REITs, and just started adding these different asset classes that do performs different than other parts of the market. We also have higher interest rates right at this moment, but compared to 1994, we're still very low interest rates, to be real honest. So maybe a bit of a flaw in this. And then flexibility. Modern planning recognizes that retirees can adjust spending during downturns, making a higher initial rate more feasible. So wait a second. He's completely changed this. Instead of taking your 4.7% now and adjusting that to inflation every year, he wants you to spend less in years that didn't go so well. Look, The whole idea of a good retirement planner, a good manager, a good financial planner, somebody that really does focus on these retirement years is so you can go enjoy your retirement in good investing years and bad investing years. We have to be able to handle the lost decade as well as the last decade, which has rocket launched. I don't think our concern in any portfolio is the last decade where the stock market has gone straight up. Any investment portfolio did just fine in the last decade. It's how you're going to be able to handle a lost decade like 2000 to 2010 that becomes way more important. And so, yes, the 4%, 4.7%, I'm okay with it as this rule of thumb, but it doesn't really dictate how to handle your retirement year to year, month to month, your withdrawals. It's just too generalized. And so I've always explained it in a different way. I also don't like the buckets, which I'm making a video on that next. So here's the thing. I'm going to show you my buckets. And it really just starts with your practical bank account, right? I want you to have 1 year's worth of money that your income won't pay for next year. Okay, so we're always looking at the year ahead. So it's going to be a lot more accurate because if you're in November, December-ish, and you're looking at your upcoming year, typically you're going to know maybe if you need a new car or if you're going to take a big family vacation, you're going to have an idea of your bigger expenses in the upcoming year. So I want you to look at your budget, understand the base that you need, and then understand in general about how much you need above the income that comes in every month. So Social Security, pension income, any of those income annuities, any income that's coming into your bank account on a monthly basis, how much do you need above that? And I want you to fill your bank account up and have a cushion. And no, I'm not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars cushion. I'm talking reasonable emergency cushion. Okay, car breaks down, air conditioner, heater goes out, things like that. Not, oops, I need $1 million. You know, let's be realistic about this. We have insurances to cover some of the big disasters out there. Sometimes it's kids. Maybe you got a kid that gets into financial trouble occasionally, so you want to keep a little extra just in case you need to help out there. Things like that, I'm perfectly fine with. A reasonable cushion, $10, $20, $30, $40,000 for most people. If you're living on $150, $250, $300,000 incomes, then sure, a little more would make sense. But most of the average retirees living on, say, anywhere from single people, 50 on to $150,000 a year income, not a month income. So I want you to have the amount of money you need that your income doesn't cover for the upcoming year plus a cushion. That's your bank account. You start that fresh every year. Then the whole idea of your safe, stable investments, bucket number 2. Okay, we're investing the rest of the money. We've figured out how much cash we need for the upcoming year. We're going to invest the rest of the money. The whole idea of the other 2 buckets is really simple. Have safe, stable investments. That's your bond portfolio, your fixed and fixed indexed annuities, your treasuries. I'm not a big fan of money market accounts, and now you're starting to see why. They've gone from 5% interest down to 3% interest, and if you're not paying attention, even less in some cases. So stable investments, CDs, treasuries, bonds, the stuff that at least gives you confidence that if the stock market crashes, you have access to this money. Okay, this is your conservative investments to withdraw from when the market is not doing well. It's really that simple. Okay, then you need your stock market, your growth-based investments. And in my case, yes, visually, I did make this bigger part of your portfolio. For a lot of people that have more money than they're going to spend for themselves, whether they know it or not, you're going to typically have more in the stock market than your safe, stable investments. But you also want to have access to those safe, stable investments. Okay. And then all I want you to do is once a year, not every so often, just keep pulling willy-nilly. Once a year, I want you to sit down and look at your situation, typically in November-ish, December-ish. okay, late in the year, because you're going right back to this bank account and saying, well, I have X amount of dollars left. I need X amount for next year, and now I got to refill it. And for those of you that are lucky, you have some IRA money, you have some Roth money, some after-tax money. If the stock market's not doing well, we can withdraw from the safe, stable investments. Now, if we've got room at lower taxation, prioritize your IRA. You always want to pull money out of the IRA when you're paying less taxes. When you're in higher taxation, you want to focus on withdrawals from the after-tax and the Roth money. When the market is doing well, when your investments are doing well. Oh, this seems to be hard to drill into people's heads. In retirement, we want to scrape some of those profits off. We want to lock in the profits. So we only withdraw from the safe, stable investments when things aren't going well. And that's when you withdraw from the stock market investments when they are doing well. Okay? All we're doing is think about it in the good way. We're locking in the profits. Okay, so refill towards the end of the year for a fresh start for the new year. We're doing this once a year. You're going to control taxation better, and you're going to control where you're pulling from better. Ooh, I don't like that stock. It hasn't performed well. I wanted to get rid of it anyways. No, you do not pull from things that are not doing well. You want to sell that stock and rebuy a different stock. That's reinvesting it. That's fine. Withdrawing to spend it is locking in losses. I only want you locking in gains at the best of your ability. At some point, some people end up reaching into principal. It's fine. If you're doing it regularly, if we know how to do the math, which I have plenty of videos on how to do the math so you don't ever run out of money, then you can keep withdrawing from principal. You just want to minimize it. You always want to try to pull the profits first. Okay, so the math is pretty easy. I illustrated on other videos. It's your total savings divided by how many years you have left in retirement. And obviously you don't know exactly how many years you have left in retirement. So shoot long. I tell people calculate to 100. If you're 70 years old now, calculate 30 years. If you say there's no way I'm making it to 100, and 90 is not even achievable in my family, so okay, maybe 90. Go 5 years past you think the wildest, eldest you can get. Go 5 years past that. I don't want you to run out of money. That's the whole idea of this. So take how many years you have left in retirement, how many more years you have to fund, and divide it into the total savings you have left. That gives you, instead of this 4% rule, that gives you a black and white number to shoot for. If you're trying to spend all your money, then try to spend that much money. If you don't need that much money, it's okay. That calculation again next year is going to give you more if you need it that year. That's the whole idea of this. The larger your withdrawal rate, the greater the effect of volatility. So that rule then tells you how you need to divvy this up, whether it's 50-50, 40-60, whatever the case may be. The larger your withdrawal rate, 4%. Well, rule of thumb was actually 50-50, 60-40, the safe way. But the reality is you start getting into the 4.7, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, not a sustainable withdrawal rate, then certainly the safer you're going to be. So imagine the older you get, the bigger the percentage you might be pulling out of there. So that's why you tend to lean safer, okay? Strategically withdraw from IRA, Roth, and after-tax non-qualified is what we call that. All the other money, trust money, whatever it is that you call it, your brokerage money, everything that's not IRA and Roth. Strategically utilize these categories to maximize your tax efficiency. And the more you understand about taxation, the easier this is to see. Becomes really important in understanding that. And that's where, honestly, where good advisors separate themselves, especially in retirement. Younger generations in their prime working years, they just need advisors to throw the money in the stock market. That's all they need. But boy, can a good advisor make a big difference and certainly make up and multiply the fees that they're going to save you and the cost in taxes. So it's huge. It's good advisors should really be able to help with that. All right. And if you don't have one, I'm certainly available. You can jump on yourinvestmentcounselor.com. You can schedule a free meet and greet with me. I'm always happy to chat about your situation and see where I can help. Full classes, if you haven't attended any of our full classes, we teach classes over Zoom, open to the public, fpfeaz.org. Jump on there and you can register for classes. I do a different topic every single month, and you've got 4 or 5 different opportunities to view that class. Phone number 800-345-3155. Give me a call, subscribe, like, do all those wonderful things, share these videos, tell your friends about them, and I will see you next week. Thanks again.